speak, family and friends of the late wrestling legend Hulk Hogan are gathering at a Largo church to celebrate his...
The world lost a treasure today. Hulk Hogan was the greatest WWE superstar of all time.
People always wanted to paint us as enemies, but we were actually very, very close friends.
The crowd may have gone silent, but the echoes of Hulkamania still roar through generations. On a somber morning in Largo, Florida, the wrestling world came to a halt. Black SUVs rolled up one after another. Stars stepped out, not into the ring this time, but into the shadow of grief. Inside the Indian Rocks Baptist Church, emotions overflowed. Tears were shed, secrets whispered, icons embraced. This wasn't just a funeral, it was the final curtain call for a man who turned professional wrestling into a pop culture phenomenon. Hulk Hogan, the immortal, the icon, the legend, was finally saying goodbye. The last ride begins outside the church. The air was thick with silence. The kind of silence that weighs on your chest. A long line of cars snaked down the streets. Yellow roses were everywhere, a subtle tribute to the color that symbolized the fire and flair of Hulk Hogan's wrestling legacy. From the first limo, Linda Hogan emerged, her face pale, her hands trembling. This was more than grief, it was heartbreak. She had spent nearly a quarter century with Hogan, watching him rise from Terry Bollea, the man, to Hulk Hogan, the global icon, and now she stood at the gates of farewell. At her side stood Sky Daly, Hogan's widow, quiet, composed, and carrying a single bouquet of yellow roses. The two women, bound forever by love to the same man, shared a brief glance, full of pain, respect, and everything left unsaid. Who showed up? And who didn't? One by one, the legends arrived. A black SUV door opened. Out stepped Vince McMahon. At 79, the man who helped turn wrestling into a billion-dollar industry was visibly aged, but determined to be there. His presence spoke volumes. Their relationship had spanned 4 decades, marked by collaboration, conflict, and an unbreakable bond. Together, they built WrestleMania. Together, they changed sports entertainment forever. Triple H followed close behind, arm in arm with Stephanie McMahon. The look on their faces said it all. This was not just a mentor who had passed. It was the man who had paved the path for the new generation of superstars. For Triple H, Hogan had been the template. For Stephanie, he was a family friend, almost an uncle. And then, an eruption of emotion swept the crowd. Ric Flair had arrived, clad in a sleek black suit with a subtle yellow pocket square. The Nature Boy looked shaken. These two had shared wars in the ring, banter in the locker room, and laughs on the road. As Flair stood in front of the church doors, his eyes welled up. On social media later, he would write, "Even in heaven, he sold out again." It was the kind of tribute only Flair could deliver. Raw, poetic, unforgettable. More surprises followed. Dennis Rodman arrived, his flamboyance toned down for the occasion. Rodman and Hogan were an unlikely but iconic duo in the late 90s, wrestling together in WCW, breaking boundaries between sports. Kid Rock soon followed, his eyes hidden behind dark glasses, his grief not hidden at all. A longtime friend, his silence said everything. Then came the unexpected. Comedian Theo Vaughn, known for his offbeat humor, appeared without fanfare. No cameras, no public statements. Just a man paying homage to his childhood hero. A reminder that Hogan's influence extended far beyond the squared circle. But while many came, one absence overshadowed it all. Brooke Hogan, the daughter of the wrestling legend, had been estranged from her father for nearly 2 years. While Linda was present, Brooke was not. Her decision not to attend sparked a media frenzy. Some fans sympathized, others were outraged. How could she not be there for her father's final goodbye? Was the rift so deep that even death couldn't bridge it? Inside the ceremony, once inside the church, emotions reached their peak. The sanctuary was draped in black and yellow. The casket, a glossy mahogany, was covered in memorabilia, championship belts, a feathered boa, a replica of his famous red and yellow trunks, and even a sticker of Donald Trump, a symbol of his complicated later years. Pallbearers included wrestling royalty, many of whom had stood beside Hogan in both kayfabe and real life. Each wore yellow boots boutonnieres, their steps slow, their heads bowed. But then, something unplanned happened. Vince McMahon, who had planned only to attend silently, took the stage. The room quieted instantly. Speaking not as a CEO, but as a friend, he used Hogan's real name, Terry. Terry wasn't just a wrestler. He was the bridge between what wrestling was and what it could become. Without him, none of this exists. None of us exist. Not like this. His voice cracked. His hands trembled. The moment was surreal. For decades, these two had written the history of professional wrestling. Now, one was reading its final chapter. Following Vince, Ric Flair spoke next. Brief but heartfelt. He reminded everyone how Hogan had carried the business on his back when it was fading, how he made the impossible believable. Then came a haunting acoustic performance of Real American, sung slowly, reverently, like a hymn. The song that once opened Hogan's entrances now closed his story. And then, the standing ovation. For nearly 5 minutes, every single person in that church stood, not clapping out of celebration, but out of deep, soul-piercing respect. Tears flowed, hugs were shared. This was more than mourning, this was gratitude. The aftermath and unanswered questions. When the ceremony ended, the silence that followed was deafening. As the guests exited the church, they looked dazed, as though still waiting for that familiar guitar riff to play. For the immortal Hulk Hogan to enter the arena one last time. Outside, conversations turned quiet. Linda and Sky shared a brief embrace. Old wounds softened by shared grief. Kid Rock and Theo Vaughn stood quietly beside Dennis Rodman, all three men trying to process a loss that stretched far beyond personal. But even as Hogan was laid to rest, stories continued to swirl. What had really happened in his final days? Sources close to the family hinted at health complications kept private, tensions among family members, a desire for peace, a man preparing for the end even as the world still saw him as invincible. And then, the biggest question of all, what happens now? For decades, Hulk Hogan was the face of wrestling. His catchphrases, his charisma, his unmatched presence. He was the brand. Now, as the industry shifts toward a new generation, will his legacy be preserved or quietly replaced? As the sun dipped over Largo that evening, the world felt just a little dimmer. The man who once asked us to train hard, say our prayers, and eat our vitamins had taken his final walk down the aisle. But legends don't die. They live on in every child who flexes their muscles in the mirror, in every fan who shouts, "What you gonna do, brother?" In every arena where the echoes of Hulkamania still ripple through the crowd. This was Hulk Hogan's final goodbye. But the legacy is eternal. Rest in power, Hulkster.